Fort Pierre area has long been a crossroads and a meeting place. There's evidence that the Arikara Nation inhabited this area as early as the 1400s. They were met by European explorers near here in 1743. To mark that occasion and to claim the land for France, the Vérendrye brothers buried a lead plate on a hillside. That marker was found by school children in 1913. It's now in the State Cultural Heritage Center across the river. Welcome to Dakota Life, and greetings from Fort Pierre. This is where the Bad River meets the Missouri. Just north along the river, a trading post. The Fort Pierre Chateau was built in 1832. The U.S. Army purchased the property in 1855, building Fort Pierre, the first military outpost in the upper Missouri. The community commemorates these events and others as history you can touch. And coming up in our episode today, we'll also meet Pat Duffy. She's still leaving her mark on Fort Pierre at the age of 90. We'll travel south to Rosebud, where tribal members are expanding their bison herd, and go downriver to Vermilion, where John Banasiak has spent 4 decades asking students to trust their imagination and teaching photography. First, though, the cowboy heritage. At the time, the Diamond A Ranch was the largest in South Dakota. Some of their former employees gathered to reminisce about the old ranch hands they knew and worked with. Their stories are a direct link to the Old West.
Bob Rose is 96 years old and learned a thing or two about cattle working for the Diamond A Ranch.
I heard about these vast herds that were driven up here from Arizona through New Mexico. And to me, a vast herd, any more than 400 or 500, so damn hard to control.
Rose is one of a shrinking number of people who used to work for the Diamond A. They call him Young Bob. His father was Old Bob. Old Bob worked for the Diamond A for 67 years. He was working for the outfit even before the company established itself in South Dakota.
Well, my father worked with the Diamond A in Montana starting the 5th of July, 1912.
The Diamond A out of New Mexico and Colorado started leasing South Dakota land in 1907. In the early years, the outfit ran some 50,000 head of cattle on 1.4 million acres of rangeland, more or less centered on the town of Eagle Butte. Despite ownership and management changes, Diamond A managed to stay afloat through the 1950s and early 1960s. A few of the ranch's former employees established their own farms and ranches and still live in the area. It seems like everyone has a story about a time when things didn't go quite as planned.
One time at Ridgeview there, we just getting ready to brand. We had 500-600 head in that corral.
Yeah.
And I said, Roy Hunt was, I think, the boss there. And I seen this train coming. I said, Roy, that train honks the horn there, he said, before he gets to Ridgeview. Oh, he won't. You can see all these cows here, he won't. Sure as hell, he honked the horn. Them calves laid the south side of that corral, it's as flat as a pancake. They run for 5 miles.
Oh, yeah.
Then we had to saddle up and took us a week. We never did find them all.
Everett Hunt is from Eagle Butte and remembers a story his dad told him about a time when a guy riding a motorcycle on a nearby road spooked the herd they were working with.
They had gathered about 1,500 head of big steers. He said that 4- and 5-year-old steers hadn't seen a man but once or twice in their life. And they trailed them up to Lancery and were going to load them on cars. And there was a big dry lake bed, so they bedded them and nighthawked them. And he said everything was going good and well, and in the train, they could hear the train coming in, and pretty soon here come a guy up over the hill with a motorcycle. And away went them steers. He said, we got them circled around and bedded down again. Here he came again. And Dad said that Tom Scoggins rode up to me, and he said, Jack, you stay right here. If that son of a bitch comes by here again, your job is to rope him.
They say the pay was fair, the hours were sometimes long, but you might have to work at any time of day.
Yeah, we drove cows all night. It was hot, so we waited till dark, and them old cows knew they was going to the river anyway, so we trailed her down there in the dark that night.
As for the cowboy persona, there's a lot of joking around, a lot of practical jokes. And if anyone offers you a cup of cowboy coffee, you might consider this story. Jim Holloway lives near Faith. His dad was a brand inspector back in the 40s, and Holloway remembers going to visit the Diamond A. While his dad talked outside with old Bob Rose, his mom decided to make some coffee in the ranch house.
Old Bob had the coffee pot on the back of the stove. Mother decided she ought to make coffee, opened it up, and it was dirty, so she went to throw it out, and there's a dish rag in the bottom. She throwed it out, washed the pot out, put fresh water in, and made coffee. A little while later, Bob come in, and his coffee pot was clean and had coffee in it, and he said, "Ruined my coffee pot.
Yeah.
Just ruined my goddamn coffee pot."
Well, he would never throw the grounds out till the
Hell
pot was
no.
full.
He'd get that much grounds in there for him.
Cowboy coffee.
Just cook them over and over. Made better coffee that way.
Bob Rose can tell you the difference between a cowpoke and a cowpuncher and a saddle bum. He always thought he wanted to be a saddle bum.
A saddle bum was anybody that sat on a horse, and that's about all he was good for.
Rose also has an idea about what might get a cowboy labeled all hat, no cattle.
Some say that they talked about girls. That's all they wanted to do was talk about girls when they were out on the range. And then when they got to town where there was liquor, they would go into the bar and all they would do is ride bucking horses.
To learn more about the Diamond A Ranch and hear more stories, check our website at sdpb.org/images of the past.
More of the cowboy culture is on display here at the Casey Tibbs Rodeo Center. Tibbs was born about 50 miles northwest of Fort Pierre along the Cheyenne River. In 1949, at the age of 19, he became the youngest man ever to win the national saddle bronc riding crown. Casey Tibbs spent his life working to improve the image of professional rodeo and donated a lot of time to charity work. The 4th of July rodeo here in Fort Pierre is one of several during the summer season that continues the legacy of Tibbs and all of those who came before. But animal husbandry is also a critical skill for cattlemen. Encouraged by his Lakota wife, Good Elk Woman, Fort Pierre rancher Frederick Dupree is credited for his efforts to save the buffalo from extinction. They captured 5 buffalo calves and raised them on the ranch, growing the herd tenfold. Those animals were purchased by James Scotty Phillip. The bison in Custer State Park can be traced back to the Phillip Ranch. They're also looking forward in Rosebud, and they're growing the bison herd along the way.
Our project is called Wolakota, and what that means in our language is to live the Lakota way of life. And so this idea that our identity is linked from the health and welfare and well-being of buffalo. And when they're strong, we're going to be strong again as well. This is an opportunity to not dwell on the past, but to acknowledge it and move forward with new vision and with new light into a future that is healthy for our people, for our region, and for the planet. The Rosebud Sioux tribe purchased this land and then put it into trust and brought it back into their territory under their control. Our project will create a 28,000-acre regenerative buffalo range that will be home to 1,500 buffalo. Previously, in past years, it's been a working and operational cattle ranch. We are now in the process of converting it to what will be the largest Native American owned and managed buffalo range in the world. Our buffalo are going to be coming from a variety of sources, and in particular, we're really excited about our partnership with the U.S. Department of Interior, which has what they call a 10-year National Bison Management Plan, which is the plan and framework for how they manage all of their buffalo across all of their federal lands, National Park Service, and Fish and Wildlife animals.
This bison working group drafted for the Secretary of the Interior the Bison Conservation Initiative that was released in May of this year. Part of that initiative goes to focus on doing something that has been difficult for us to do in the past, and that is to move beyond thinking about species level management and genetic conservation, and to really actively try to link ecological restoration with cultural restoration. And so this project today is really emblematic of that effort to link ecology and culture, both within the national park system, but beyond federal lands as well.
Well, we're all about preservation and cultural heritage and natural resource heritage. And so bison sort of fits all those categories. They're an extraordinary national resource. They're the national mammal. But they're also very important culturally to Native Americans. And so this project is just perfect for the mission of what the National Park Service is, and in addition, enhancing bison conservation across the country and at a landscape scale.
This is the first time that a non-federal entity is a part of that National Bison Management Plan, which means that we'll be able to receive and also exchange buffalo with all the Fish and Wildlife herds, with all of the national park herds. The beginning and the start of this herd is coming from the Badlands National Park in South Dakota and the Theodore Roosevelt Park in North Dakota.
Our involvement in this project at Badlands National Park was essentially to provide 50 bison for the establishment of this new herd at Rosebud. And the great credit is due to our outstanding resources team and field employees at Badlands National Park, who not only help day to day with managing the second largest herd of bison in the national park system, but also on an annual or every 2-year basis, capturing bison for distribution of surplus bison.
Theodore Roosevelt National Park also rounded up 50 bison for this donation to the Rosebud Sioux tribe. And we were in conversations with the Rosebud Sioux tribe. I believe it was the Redco group, and Wheezy Pan was describing how the tribe would like to have a bison herd that represented culturally the tribal makeup of people. So having grandfathers, grandmothers, mothers, fathers, younger people, children in that bison herd was very important from a cultural perspective.
This project goes beyond just delivering bison to tribes. This project is really oriented to achieve multiple goals. So ecological restoration and cultural restoration for sure. It also intends to hit marks for economic development, some job creation here on the reservation, and food sovereignty for the Rosebud nations.
This is an opportunity for us to do what we call the development and implementation of local solutions to global challenges. And this is going to be an example, not only for other Native nations, but really for the rest of the world to look at and say, hey, these guys are doing something pretty cool out in the middle of what we now call South Dakota. We can do that in our area, in our territory as well.
As we come back to Fort Pierre, you can stop off at sdpb.org/Dakota Life. You'll find a couple of stories there. One is about the sought-after antler sheds. No, that's not a building. We follow a family that hunts for those antlers shed by animals as they grow a new set. And you may be adjusting for a return to the office after the pandemic. Well, what about your canine coworker? They've become used to having you around the home. Fort Pierre embraces being a bedroom community. Over 80% work across the river in Pierre, and many come back home each day to a waterfront home. Marion's Garden is one of 3 housing developments along a neighborhood canal that's connected to the Missouri. It provides immediate backyard access to the river. A marina project is underway in the commercial district, and behind me, the John C. Waldron Bridge connects Fort Pierre and Pierre. The name honors Commander Waldron. He led a torpedo squadron to locate the Japanese carrier fleet during the Battle of Midway in World War II. Waldron was born on a ranch near the Bad River. All of the planes in his group were shot down during that attack, but he was awarded the Navy Cross posthumously, and his bravery is celebrated here in his hometown. Construction is underway for a new Missouri River Bridge. That's set to open in 2023. John Banasiak is one of 5 honored in this year's Governor's Awards in the Arts. They're recognized for excellence in their craft and contributions to the culture of our state. Banasiak is a professor at USD, and he celebrates his award as a collaboration of many talented people.
If you're on a visual exploration, you're out to dig up something that you haven't seen before or you never interacted with before. You have to be that far open to just ask people or go places where you wouldn't usually go and deal with the consequences, which could be good, could be bad, but you have to have confidence in your own imagination. I think it's a useful educational tool to have those kind of unexpected things happen, even obstacles, problems that get in the way. Those are the only opportunities you have to really learn something. You know, if everything went fine, you probably didn't really learn that much.
Art has been the way that John Banasiak has communicated with his environment. First, as a child, making up stories about days running around with buddies. Then, as a schoolboy sketching in class.
The nuns there always would ask me to draw the posters or something because I guess I could do it and I just enjoyed doing it. I don't know where it came from. One of them even said, you know, you ought to go into art and be an artist someday.
Banasiak is indeed a very talented artist. He spends free time making assemblage art, similar to the shrines made by his Polish Catholic grandmother, and ambling through neighborhoods looking for striking images.
You know, and when you walk around at night, dark enough to block out any potentially distracting elements, and so it's easier to isolate specific things. Direction of light, casting the shadow there too. It looks like some background in a Salvador Dali painting.
Educated at the Art Institute of Chicago, plus the University of Krakow in Poland, Banasiak has also earned numerous accolades. His passion, it turns out, has been teaching.
Working with students day to day here and watching them explore or excavate different layers of themselves really is better than reading books for me. I think that maybe I, in the end, learn more than anybody else in my classes. I hope to think that I'm still growing in some significant way.
John has been teaching at USD for 40 years. Many students have exposed and processed endless rolls of film and sheets of paper, learning lessons that are as indelible as the images they create. Maya Perry is an anthropology student who enjoys processing her own emotions through photography.
So a lot of the things that I make in class have to do with my private, deep emotions. Sometimes John and I will kind of work to try to formulate ideas about how I can use anthropology and photography together. So looking at emotions as artifacts or looking at specific pieces from my past as artifacts that I can photograph and then use.
Students are just part of the group that appreciate Banasiak's contribution in the classroom. The recipient of the 2021 Governor's Award in the Arts for Outstanding Service in Arts Education, Banasiak is quick to reflect on the honor.
This Governor's Award is really hard to accept it personally. The only way I could really think about it is accepting it as a collective effort, you know, of the art department. Everybody is so good here too. We had to try and set up an environment where learning can take place. You know, get rid of all the distractions as much as I can, be as helpful as I could be, have all the chemicals mixed up, ready when anybody has a question or they're struggling with some understanding of some idea or where they should go next.
Dylan Bryant has benefited from the innovation and collaboration that occurs in the classroom of this humble instructor.
It's been lovely. John has a really good way of just nurturing just like creative ideas. His like stories, his anecdotes, they really help you connect the threads for like different ideas, like different ways of working.
John says that he's in no hurry to retire, but when he does, his legacy and dedication to the exploration of ideas and self-growth will continue in people like Dylan.
I want to be like John when I grow up. And I would love to take what I've learned from here and everybody to bring that forward to my own students if I do go on to teach.
John Banasiak says that's as good of a tribute as any award.
There are many picturesque views in this area. It's an expansive river valley. And where the Bad River meets the Missouri, Lewis and Clark met with leaders of the Teton Lakota Nation in 1804. It's the site of the Fisher's Lily Park today. Water access is the star, but there are many opportunities to get out in nature, with a walk across the Bad River pedestrian bridge, or more walking, biking, and outdoor social spaces. It's part of a community looking towards the future, as Pat Duffy has been doing for part of the Fort Pierre business community for over 50 years, running the legendary cowboy bar, the Chateau, and building the Pat Duffy Community Center and the Quentin Sutley Senior Center. She runs the Meals on Wheels program and serves as executive director of the Community Youth Involved Center. And at 90, she's as indispensable to the community as ever.
Mary, this is Pat from the Youth Center in Fort Pierre. Is there? Okay, well you need to tell her that April 9th she gave me a check and it was for February. And then I did not receive the check that she was supposed to give me for the ceiling things, the $2,400 and just about $2,500. And you know, I can't operate this way. We have to pay our bills every 30 days. And I get a February check on April 9th. I should have gotten both the February and March. So I need to visit with her because this can't go on this way. I can't do it. Okay? Would you give it? All right, thank you. Bye.
Pat Duffy's name is well known around Fort Pierre, though some may know her as Miss Kitty. Together with her late husband Ed, she ran the legendary Chateau Bar and Restaurant from 1962 until 2013. In 1980, she was instrumental in building the Pat Duffy Community Center, which provides programs for Fort Pierre youth. Recently, she helped lead the effort to rebuild the complex with the addition of a senior center. At 90, Duffy shows up before 6 a.m. every weekday at the senior center to run the Meals on Wheels program. She's also actively involved as a board member at the community center, which recently received a federal grant for its after-school learning program. As the sign on her desk says, this is not her first rodeo. Duffy learned a few things in 50 years of running a bar in a place with rougher edges than her current office.
We'd have fights, but we'd handle them ourselves. My husband was a big man, strong man, and all I had to do was holler his name and he'd be over there taking care of the fight. They knew better. We didn't put up with fights, but we also didn't call the police in to handle our fights. They took care of outdoors and we took care of our bar.
I actually drank in there before I was old enough. She didn't realize it till I was old enough. And then that day I thought she was going to snap the drink out of my hand when my brother told her I had just turned 21.
Nowadays, Duffy applies her business acumen to making sure people who can't get out receive a meal and, however brief, some human interaction.
It would be a nightmare, I think, and she does it day in and day out. I mean, and she does a good job of it to coordinate with all the people that are doing it. And you know, you have people, myself, I call up and say, hey, I'm not able to deliver today. And she has to find somebody that'll fill in, you know, and she's able to do that on a moment's notice. And so that takes a special person to be able to do that. Some people, it's the only outside interaction they have with anybody. And so it's just important to them to be able to have contact with people and just to have, just to be able to talk with somebody at least once a day.
Boy, the wind is sure rough out there today.
Yeah, I know it is. Yesterday too,
Yeah.
same thing.
You know, the neat thing about this place and what Pat has built it into is that you talk about things falling through the cracks in communities. And this is kind of a place, and Pat's developed it into a place where she fills the cracks.
I don't really know how much longer I'll be here. As long as I'm able, I will be. I wouldn't even be happy sitting at home. I can see why older people forget what day it is or what time it is, or it's not the same. So as long as I can, I'm going to be coming here, getting up and going to work. Well, you can come at between 10 and 10:30, I said, but sometimes they're not ready right at 10. You'd have to wait. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Fort Pierre is the only bicentennial community in South Dakota. And with folks like Pat Duffy, it reflects a strong and supportive community spirit. History is around every corner here. The river was the first highway system, and once gold was discovered in the hills in 1874, this was the nearest river stop. Stagecoach routes fanned out in every direction. The Chicago Northwestern has served the area for more than a century, so make sure you stop by and see the memorabilia at the renovated depot. From tribal gatherings to ranchers and settlers to a residential and recreational area, this community along the Missouri River will remain vibrant for another century or two. Well, that wraps up this season of Dakota Life. We'll be traveling the state in the months ahead for more stories and planning to visit new communities this season too. The stories of our Fort Pierre visit and all of the communities we visited this year are available for you at sdpb.org/Dakota Life. Thanks for coming along with us. I'm Larry Rohr. For all of us at SDPB, thanks for watching.